Excellent. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Commodities Digitization 2.0, Automation, Intelligence, Evolution, Optimizing Trading and Operations to Thrive in Turbulent Times. My name is Ben Hillary. I'm Managing Director of Commodities People, and really would just like to say a huge thank you to everyone for joining us today. Really pleased to see how much this webinar has attracted the attention of the industry, with over 650 registrants from all corners of the globe and all parts of the commodities ecosystem. In the next 90 minutes, we're going to be conducting a really deep dive into a range of organizations, trading, operations, and supply chain automation programs. We'll be drawing on specific use cases to illustrate where the wider commodities sector can evolve to in the years ahead, where efficiencies can be gained, costs saved, and valuable data and insights collected much more effectively. Some of the topics we'll be covering today via mini case studies and group discussion include developing an overall operations automation strategy, exploring the low-hanging fruit of trade confirmations, inventory management, transportation, invoice processing, and reconciliations, utilizing new streams of data from the back office to provide competitive advantage to the wider organization, and really looking into best practices to efficiently scale the business and free resources to drive new revenue opportunities. We have an absolutely cracking lineup of speakers. Really delighted to welcome today April Morgan, SVP, Head of SCS, Trade Controls and Operations over at Stonex. Gitika Arora, Director, Head of North America Oil Contracts over at Freepoint Commodities. Vladimir Zeman, Group Head of Information Systems at Traxxas. Rick Nelson, CEO of ClearOpx, and Mark Lefebvre, CTO at ClearOpx. Thank you all very much for being here today. The webinar is going to take the format of a series of highly practical mini case study presentations. We'll then move to panel discussion and audience Q&A. So on that note, throughout the webinar, please do be posting your questions in the Q&A box and upvoting others of interest. Also do make full use of the chat channel for any comments you want to share with the panel, with the audience, or even just to introduce yourself, say hello, say where you're watching from today. I am now delighted to pass over to Rick Nelson, CEO of ClearOpx. Rick, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Ben. Welcome, April, Vlad, Gitika, and Mark. What a great panel, such a relevant and current topic. I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. You can't go anywhere these days, business or social, without someone bringing up AI, machine learning, or of course, ChatGPT. We hear how people are using it to write copy, create presentations, and generate code. It's captured the world's attention for sure. It's a technology that has irreversibly changed the way that we work. And as we speak, most companies around the world are rapidly trying to figure out their AI strategies and how to take advantage of these technologies and integrate them into their firms. The use cases are vast and they stretch across the entire organization. For the commodities industry, ClearOpx is at the front of this wave. We've built a platform that allows companies to quickly and cost-effectively leverage these technologies to solve everyday problems and to bring immediate value to the business. And that's the key to today's panel, not focusing on the technology behind the application, but on the use of ClearOpx and these advanced technologies to solve business problems today that are common throughout our industry. Everyone on this webinar knows that technology is a key element to operations of commodities firms. It's difficult to survive without it. Commodity trading organizations have been progressing their digitization and automation efforts for years. However, operations, logistics, are increasingly lagging, with many basic functions remaining heavily manual, which unfortunately leads to far higher operational risk and cost. And because of these manual processes, valuable data and insights across the business are not being captured and utilized. The increased focus and continued evolution of digitization really began to peak last year due to a mix of pressures and critical events occurring in the market. Stubborn inflationary pressures, various labor challenges, and of course, the war in the Ukraine. The volume of conversations and the needs in the marketplace have continued and increasingly significantly since the beginning of the year. Look at today's attendance. This is a hot topic for all of us. We see this as the wave of digitization 2.0, which is digitization, which has been around in various forms for a while, but now supported by greater intelligence being AI, ML, natural language process, and large language models. This isn't just a ClearOpx view or opinion. It's really been enforced with what we've been hearing at recent events such as CTW Europe in London in April, CTW Americas just a few weeks ago in Chicago. So we're getting this feedback directly from events and from the marketplace. So I can summarize what I've been hearing from the market really in three key trends. First, which is always a driver in commodities, is the continued increase in volatility and risks across the commodities landscape. Whether if it's the challenges of supply not meeting ever-increasing demand, inability to meet working capital requirements to expand the business, liquidity challenges, more expensive to borrow, or quite frankly, just balancing between producing food or energy. This continued volatility needs to be met with greater resiliency across all of your business processes. Why? So that the businesses can respond more quickly to market changes. Manual processes where data and information are not readily available can no longer be tolerated. Data-driven organizations where information is shared across teams and partners to better respond and react is increasing as a critical differentiator. Second, which I mentioned at the start of this, and we all know, and most likely why we're all here, is the rise of artificial intelligence is progressing at a rapid pace. You just can't ignore it. To take advantage of the power of these technologies, companies must ensure that they have the data and supporting skills and systems in place. The Wall Street Journal just highlighted this in a point in an article a couple of weeks back. The article was titled, "Rush to use generative AI pushes companies to get data in order." It's about the data. We hear a lot of companies asking about how they can intelligently automate the capture, inclusion, and sharing of data. And even the more progressive organizations are even asking if there's a simpler way to get to the end result, as they don't have the time or the resources to put these in place in a quick enough fashion. I will let you know that there definitely is a way to do this. Third point, and lastly, is the third trend we hear across all the commodities and geographies. It's really about scale. How do I scale the back office and supply chain, knowing that there are increasing regulatory and reporting requirements like ESG, while at the same time growing and expanding into new market opportunities efficiently and effectively? So while these are three of the main trends that I highlighted, the overwhelming and number one question that we've heard based on hundreds of interactions that we've had with commodity organizations globally is simply, what are others doing and how can we learn from them? It's this reason that we're hosting the event today with subject matter experts from across various commodity, oils, ags, metals, where they will share with you their experiences and learnings as they've been digitizing and automating their processes. The more that organizations understand what is possible and what role AI can play today, the more they will understand Digitization 2.0 and why they should be working with ClearOpx. And with that, let's get right into the discussions. As Ben mentioned, each of our guests today will speak individually, and then we'll follow up and open to more of an open panel session.
That's excellent. Many thanks, Rick. Well, in that case, I'm delighted to welcome April to the stage.
All right, thank you, Ben, and thank you, Rick. I am certainly happy to be here and the opportunity to share a case study of ours. So April Morgan, as Ben previously mentioned, I head up Stonex Commodity Solutions operational teams. Stonex Commodity Solutions is an entity that's wholly owned by the parent company, Stonex, and we're a bit unique in the marketplace. We're active in the commodity trade places around egg commodities and also soft commodities. But what makes us unique is we're just not a trading company. We're actually very much consider ourselves a service-based company where we are providing risk management and hedging services to our clients, merchandising logistics services, and also offering working capital solutions for our clients. So partnering with our clients, that sort of puts us in the middle of a lot of transactions where we are buying from suppliers and facing end customers on the consumer side. So I think on paper, being a reseller really puts you at a disadvantage because we do not have connections to assets both at the origination point and also at the destination point. And so we're really relying on our trade counterparties in order to provide us with the data that we need in order to get that into our system and then process those transactions through our system. Because we do not have access to those systems, we receive an enormous amount of data through email. So we're getting on a daily basis, hundreds, probably thousands of trade settlement information that's coming through our inboxes. Three of our product lines are very high volume, very truck focused, rail car focused. So think about invoices, bills of lading, settlement statements coming in chunks of 25 trucks, 100 trucks, et cetera. Like many companies in not just in our industry, but in many other industries as well, a large strategic priority of ours has been really focused on digitizing the business, finding ways to automate it. I think, obviously from an operational cost perspective, being able to grow our business and scale our business is incredibly important to us. So as our business grows, we don't have to continue to add those same amount of operational resources to continue to support the business. I think that's obvious. I think second, using automation and digitization to really improve the client experience, how we interact with our clients, how we share data with our clients is certainly on our priority list. And in addition to that is just transparency, right? Getting real-time exposure to our data and knowing where our inventory is at all times is incredibly important to us, and using technology and those tech solutions in order to improve what that reality is for us today, certainly important. So really the focus for us and the project that I want to highlight as a part of this webinar is really focused around the trade settlement aspects of our what we call our direct ship program, which is a grains program that involves us facing farmers and then also facing on the purchase side. So on the supplier side, we're buying from farmers and then we're selling to end destination elevators and processing facilities. And so we're sort of in the middle of this transaction. We receive data from destinations that give us that settlement data, weights, grades, et cetera. We need that data in order to process those shipments against our sales, and also to process those same shipments against our purchases and inevitably pay those farmers for the grain that we have purchased. We've also have plans to use this tool in other areas of our business as well, but this was sort of the main focus area, and then expanding to those other high volume product lines. So I think first goal, and really where we came to partner with ClearOpx was really focused on how can we get this data into our system? How can we do that digitally? And so historically, we have relied on a very capable and very detail-oriented operational team to manually enter all of these truck tickets into our system, which, as you can imagine, is a very laborious, repetitive process, which means you have to have the right people in those seats. They need to be accurate. They need to be efficient. But it also sort of taking those individuals away from focusing on risk mitigation for our business, focusing on problem solutions, because they're really bogged down by the high volume of just data entry. So really the goal here was to figure out how we could capture that data digitally, how we could drive the automation of the settlement process through our systems. And so partnering with ClearOpx around this solution, certainly the first goal, and really how we calculated ROI was how can we prove an operational scale improvement story. The second goal was to improve the transparency, so gain access to that shipment data in real time and be able to sort of chase down payment from these destinations, and then in essence pay our farmers who pay our farmers more quickly. So they get paid faster because we sort of have access to the data more quickly. And so those are the two goals. Our experience in implementing ClearDocs around the solution was incredibly positive. And honestly, I think I've been a part of many system implementations in my career. This was probably the fastest and smoothest implementation that we had done. I think we went into this project hoping that we would get 70% was our goal, to automate 70% of these settlements, and we're already now automating 95% of the trucks that are delivering in this program for us. So it's been a huge success story, and I think there's a few main reasons why this implementation was really successful for us. And they asked for us to sort of share our lessons learned, and really I think our lessons are focused on why was this successful for us? What decisions did we make? I think as leaders, sometimes we hit a home run and we get things right. That's not always the case. Here, I think we did make some decisions and leaps of faith in a couple of different areas, and they've really proven to pay dividends down the road. And so the first one I want to highlight is prioritizing the user interface and the user experience in selecting a vendor. I think many folks, especially in the AI space, and everybody's sort of racing to the market to provide this type of solution. And so if you want somebody to digitize your invoices and process them through your system, you're going to find many vendors out there. However, they're all going to have a different platform, a different experience for the user when they log in and they use that tool. I think for us, one of the reasons we went with ClearDocs was because of the nice user interface and really the dashboard that they had built around the actual tech tool itself. So not just the back-end technology, but what does that look like? And why is this important? I think because adoption's key when you're implementing a tech tool. I think figuring out how you can get the team of individuals, so users, how are you going to get them excited about this tool? Because they're going to be the ones using it. And it's not going to be me. It's not going to be the IT team here at Stonex. It's going to be the staff member that's using it. So how do you get their buy-in, but also just their overall excitement about the implementation? How does this improve my? So they're actively engaged in the testing process. And anyways, I think that's one lesson is I think that's really helped us have a smooth implementation, as folks are really just excited about the product. Very modern dashboard. Second, and this one I think wasn't necessarily something we were looking for. We just sort of found that in ClearDocs, but is partnering with vendors that truly understand your business. I think for us, ClearDocs has clients that look a lot like us, and so they had experience working with clients like us. They also had staff members that we got to work with closely that had actually traded in the past. So they really understood what our business was, what are some of those pain points, could even bring us ideas, solutions that we proactively ahead of us even bringing them those ideas and solutions to them. I think again here, this really improves the implementation process. And I think in other vendors that we were looking at, we saw folks that, yeah, we've digitized millions of invoices. Every invoice is not the same. I think we all know that. And I think knowing that this staff sort of understood our business made that implementation process much smoother, right? So you're not spending a ton of time educating the vendor. What is your business? What is your problem? Why this solution doesn't fully work, I think is really, really important. And I think for us, the speed in which we were able to implement and go live was certainly impacted by simply the vendor just understanding our business. And then lastly, I think is value the tech tool upside beyond the initial scope. I think as leaders, we're sort of tasked to avoid scope creep and make sure that you're not sort of expanding that. And I do think that's incredibly important, especially in like your initial project, but also think about how can this vendor potentially provide other solutions for us in different areas of our business. So really see the potential beyond that initial project. And I think what that does is it really builds a partnership between the client and the vendor, and really just an engaging relationship where ideas are shared and both folks are looking at opportunities and ideas and how they can really make the business better. And so far, I think that's led to a very positive relationship for us with ClearOpx, and we're looking at expanding beyond this. And we have a list of many initiatives, but focused around, I think you'll hear a little bit later about inventory reconciliation, how this can improve our onboarding process. We onboard many clients, and potentially capturing additional data that before would have been difficult and time consuming, and you wouldn't really get the return on that sort of manual effort. Now, if you can automate it, it's amazing. Think about some of the quality data that we can capture, the timeliness of deliveries, carriers that we're using, et cetera. And so anyways, very successful case study for us. And I plan to use these lessons to guide me in future vendor selections. And thanks for the opportunity to share, and look forward to hearing from the others.
And thank you, April. Really interesting stuff there. Vlad, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vlad Zeman. So I'm the Group Head of Information Systems at Traxxas. Traxxas is a metal trading company. So we trade raw materials as well as refined metals. But we're also a service provider to many of our customers. So we do trade finance, we do offtake agreements, hedging. So again, we sort of have this duality a bit to what we do, which is customer focused as well as trading focused. My background just before that, so I've been in energy trading and commodity trading, information systems my whole career. I started on the technology side, and I'm still there. I started as a developer, actually building an in-house energy trading system years ago for a trading company, and worked for a while in the software industry as well with one of the big ETRM vendors. So kind of have worked on both sides of it. And one thing, this whole topic of automation has been near and dear to my heart. And it's always been a challenge in a way. It's always been a desire for the industry, but challenging to get there, particularly in physical commodities. So it's great to be part of this forum and talk a little bit about our experience. What I'd say, first of all, a little bit about our automation journey at Traxxas. So it's interesting that this seminar is entitled Commodity Digitization 2.0, right? And it sort of begs the question, or raised the question in my mind. So what was 1.0 exactly? And I guess the answer may be different for all of us on this call, a little bit different. For us, 1.0 was all about getting all your information in one place reliably, where you could get the reporting you need, get the outputs you need, be able to analyze your data, be able to view your data, be able to control your business, basically. 2.0 really for us means, okay, well, now that we've kind of done that, I think most organizations are there or are close to being there. Would we say that at the end of that, our users all went, oh, this is fantastic and this is great and we love it? Well, to be honest, no, right? I think what many users found, particularly in operations and logistics, was, okay, we understand why the corporation is doing this. We understand why we need all this important data in the system. We understand the reporting needs, but it hasn't really made our jobs any easier. We just have more data to put in, more information to maintain, more timely, and it's very challenging and it's difficult. And the demand for that information continues to grow, both from our internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders. And I think Rick mentioned a couple out there, like regulators, but there are also lenders. Even we're finding our lenders that provide financing to our business expect much more detailed, much more timely information than ever before. So, So a big part of, where we are and what the initiative for us now and going forward for some time is, how do we make this easier? How do we make this more efficient for our operations and logistics teams? And it's all about that automation. We're focusing particularly on helping get information that's out there, that's available from our service providers. So this could be warehousing, transportation providers. There's a lot of good information out there, but it tends not to move fluidly. Even after all these years and all these cool technologies, it does not move fluidly from from external parties to us and vice versa. You're always having to build an API or something like that. And I think this is why we kind of chose one piece of this. We're working on several areas of this at Traxxas, but the one area I'm going to talk about is automation of incoming service invoices. So those are the invoices for all of your transportation, your warehousing, your inspection fees. They tend to be sort of smaller amount, so smaller invoices, but very large numbers of them compared to materials invoices, for example, and from a very wide group of service providers with a very wide range of technology capabilities, from quite sophisticated to actually quite immature, but who still provide great services. So how do you get all that together? We really looked, and this is how we came upon ClearDocs. We started looking at, how do we take all those incoming documents and basically eliminate or reduce the effort to key in all that data, kind of like April was talking about, a lot of good people spending a lot of time just entering data. And we really started thinking about AI and natural language processing. We looked at a few different solutions out there, saw a couple of very advanced ones, in fact, that have been doing AI for years, and really selected ClearDocs because, similar reasons to April, because actually they got our business, right? So if we talk about MOTs, if we talk about Incoterms, they don't look at us with a blank stare. They know what we're talking about, right? And that's helped tremendously in implementing this project. So basically we use ClearDocs, and here's where we're slightly different from April and Stonex. So we really rely heavily on the back end of ClearDocs. They are basically our pre-processor. They're the engine that takes all this incoming documentation, these incoming invoices, and turns them into structured data, which we can then do something with in our systems. We've actually developed in-house an application that kind of connects the information we're getting from ClearDocs with our CTRM platform, which is a third-party sort of commercially available software, and with our document management platform, which is also commercial software. But all of those have to be linked. And so we built basically a tool that brings the data that ClearDocs has extracted from the invoices, links it up with the transactions in our CTRM, and helps our operators very quickly kind of verify the incoming invoice, match it up without doing a lot of data entry, and it gets saved to our CTRM. The budgeted costs get drawn down with the actual invoice. Any exceptions are identified very quickly. The document gets saved to our document management system and indexed accordingly, and the invoice then flows into sort of a standard electronic approval workflow we have in-house. So so that's our project, and it's been remarkable because we get thousands of these invoices across the organization every month. And we were finding, so we ran some stats. We asked our users to basically take a stopwatch and tell us really, like, how long did it take you before? How long is it taking you now? And, one group sort of reported that the ones who were willing to do this kind of took a few samples and said, okay, so our invoices typically was averaging us just that kind of entry recording piece was averaging about 4 to 6 minutes per invoice, depending on complexity. And we're kind of seeing 2 to 3 minutes now. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but multiply that by thousands and multiply that by reduced frustration, reduced fat fingers or data entry errors, and it's huge. And our users are actually quite, really happy. I'd say delighted with the capability that this offers and the time it saves them doing, frankly, a pretty boring task. So so that's our project. A little bit about lessons learned, just a couple of things I'd share from this project and other projects. So one thing that I found really helps is start with a familiar paradigm and build on that. So what I mean by that is, if you start from a really technology perspective, you may find yourself saying, okay, let's kind of build this tool that's fully automated, that uses an API that talks to external parties and makes all the data flow automatically in the background. Yes, it's great, but it's quite challenging to get all your external parties to actually buy into that and use a common technology or API. So what actually, what's the common paradigm today? It's commercial documents, commercial paper, sent around using standard email, typically as a PDF, and then somehow entered and processed and put through some approval work. That's the familiar paradigm. And that's where ClearDocs really has helped us tremendously, because they work with that paradigm. They work with the documents that our users receive, and they don't ask the people sending those documents to do anything differently. So that's the first kind of lesson learned, and that served us well. The other thing is go in small steps, really, really important. Small steps, it's worked well for us. Don't boil the ocean, make an incremental improvement, engage your users and stakeholders in that improvement, and then ask them what would help them more, and go in these little steps. Your users become engaged in the process, they get it. And where they might have started by running away when they see you coming down the hallway with your transformation project, they end up actually coming to you now and saying, oh, I have an idea on what we can do next. And that's the key. That's I think where we're all trying to get to. And final thing is measure what you can. It's hard to measure everything. It's hard to measure sort of benefits of control improvements, because it's all about, it's more about risk avoidance and cost avoidance. But you can certainly measure automation improvements. You can measure how long it took somebody to do something. You can measure how many people are using the tool, which departments are using it, what percentage, and you can share that with all your stakeholders. And if you do that, they actually go, oh, wow, I see I'm not using it. My department's not using it as much as we can be. Let me find out why. And they engage with the process. So, yeah. So those are some of the things we've learned through the process. And thank you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot for that, Vlad. Really, really, really interesting points raised. Gitka, over to you, please.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Githika Aurora. I am the head of North America and Europe oil contracts team. I also manage all of the automation projects in the oil space at the moment. FreePoint, we are a global and physical financial trading firm. We provide physical supply services and structured solutions to all our counterparties, including hedging, financing strategies. I work specifically in physical oil trading, so I will be going through some of the many oil products that we trade in through many of the motor transports like barge, vessel, rack, truck, pipeline, and tank storage. So oil contracts for all of these get very, very lengthy, complex, and if you know anything about physical oil trading, these are long form contracts that are very deal specific. Their clauses, their general terms and conditions are very, very lengthy, long form, and very detailed. So this was one of the biggest spaces in our firm where we had been spending a lot of time trying to automate as many templates as we could, deal entry process. We had been spending quite a bit of time during COVID to go through and see where can we get rid of the repetitive tasks or get rid of manual processes that we could. And the next piece that we saw here that was very apparent, but we had not been paying attention to it, is how do we read data? And I know Vlad and April and Rick have mentioned that this is becoming a very, very important space where my team currently spends a lot of time reading through trade specs, trade recaps, broker recaps. These are all emailed to us or faxed to us in some cases. We gather all that data and then we tick and tie to our deal in our ATRM system. This is a very, very lengthy process for us, as well as manual process for us. We've been growing quite a bit in our physical oil space, where we've been providing not just trading on the vanilla deals, but also structured deals. And it becomes very important to have, one, accuracy, and two, speed on all of these contracts when we're producing them. So what we decided to do was look at ClearOpx and come up with a three-way reconciliation where we are comparing not just our ETRM deal, where our trader has entered the deal in the system, but we're also comparing all economic data to any recaps that includes the trader recaps, the broker recaps, any email or IM messages that the trader possibly could have sent us, comparing all of those detailed specs to the contract, the long form contract that we're producing, and making sure. Today we have a two set of eyes rule at Freepoint, where we are checking every single contract, where the contract analyst produces it and a manager will review the contract. So we thought, can we replace this two set of eyes check with ClearOpx becoming that check? And that's exactly what we are doing at the moment today. ClearOpx tells us, compares these three documents, or it could be 3 or 4 documents, and tells us what the exceptions are, where a volume doesn't match, or where a mode of transport or an Incoterm, like Vlad said, these things do not match up. And in that case, we do exception management. We provide comments within the platform for anyone who wants to audit this deal, including, it could be a manager, it could be anybody in operations and credit department, so on and so forth. They could see the comments where we are not matching up on a deal, including the trader where we're not matching up. And these things could go back and forth between the broker or the trader on the counterparty side as well. So exception management, where my contract analyst will clear all of these exceptions, and then I will report to management how many fully matched, or we had no exceptions on any of the deals, where all of the documents matched up perfectly. We are at the moment comparing 17 to 18 fields. Again, this is very, very apparent in oil versus, if you were trading natural power and gas, where you only have 5 or 6 economic fields to compare to. So this part of the checking process we've eliminated, and we are trying to expand and integrate that into our deal entry system, into our confirmation system that we have at FreightPoint, by minimally disturbing the current workflows that we already built and automated within FreightPoint. We did not want to change any of the current workflows, one, because that requires a lot of IT work in our departments, as well as you know, a lot of training for different people who are working in these systems. Also, we've increased on accuracy, like I mentioned already. We've decreased mundane tasks like comparing manually between one document to the other, where ClearOpx is doing that task for us. One thing that we noticed as we were, you know, increasing volumes back in 2020 and 2021 was it was decreasing job satisfaction, because my contract analysts were continuously doing the same task over and over. It was decreasing job satisfaction. This has increased their job satisfaction, where they're not comparing you know, just fields on top of fields, or in doing they're not comparing different fields. They are also now looking at you know, more focused on non-economic clauses within a long form contract, and these can be 17 or 18 clauses long. Auditability, like I mentioned, anybody can go into these contracts and look for where the exceptions were. Scalability, I've already mentioned a few times. The biggest lesson that, you know, we were, or the biggest challenge, I should say, we came up with at the very beginning was, how can we trust this AI system, and how can we gaining trust of the team to trust this AI system was one of the biggest challenges. Once we started testing through, and I think, you know, the ClearOpx team plays a big role in this, where they've been great at, one, demonstrating that they understand our physical oil business. I know April and Vlad have said this too, that it's very important when you are giving them requirements, when you're implementing, when you're finding things and testing where you want to change certain requirements. And, you know, they've been very understanding in the sense that they've come up with solutions and said, you know what, FreightPoint is not going to be the only company that's going to require this. There's going to be other companies that are going to require the same type of reports or different type of mappings. And they've been very, very sensible and fast, I should say, in implementing those. One of the next steps, or the phases that we've tagged on to this, as I told you, we were only doing new deals and reading through new contracts. We are now doing phase 2, where we are reading through amendments. So once the counterparty or a broker or whoever amends a deal, amends a price, volume, so on and so forth, we are reading through those contracts as well. We're reading through responses as well. So if a counterparty, and responses take a lot of time, if you're familiar with the contract space, we're constantly telling the counterparty, you know, which clause that we don't agree with, or which clause that we would like to change. So we're going through that as the phase 2. Phase 3, what we plan on doing is an e-confirm type of platform, where, you know, multiple trading, physical oil trading firms are joining the ClearOpx space, and we could go onto this platform, clear the exceptions right then and there, and see if we can e-confirm the contract in the space. Another space where we're expanding is reading contracts like NDAs, reading offtake supply agreements, term contracts, in general terms and conditions. I mean, if you've seen any of the general terms and conditions, they could be 40 to 50 pages long. And we end up comparing between one counterparty to the other, the general terms and conditions, and then coming up with our comments, our changes to those. So we are going to be utilizing ClearOpx in that space as well. But overall, I agree with April, like she said, with the speed that we've been implementing. And the biggest, the biggest positive has been they understand our physical oil business, and they're constantly coming up with new solutions to make things faster and better. So we're very happy with ClearOpx, and I mean, we're definitely using them in other spaces like invoicing and in the settlements process as well, comparing broker recaps, paying brokers as well. But I think oil contracts has been the biggest win in terms of manual processes and automating those. So that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Many thanks, Giska. Very, very interesting. And yeah, really, really exciting actually to look at where this can go. Mark, over to you, please.
All right. Thank you. So my name is Mark Lefebvre, and I'm the CTO of ClearOpx. I've been working in the commodities industry for over 18 years. I started off as a developer in the back office, and I worked directly with users. So working directly with the users really allowed me to get a firsthand glimpse into what are their pain points, what's the current workflows, what's the user experience on the current systems. And I saw a lot of improvement that could be made, putting yourself in their shoes and really understanding the business, the nuances, really allowed the developers to go back and come up with innovative solutions. A lot of companies have already invested in their current systems, whether it's their ETRM system or another system that they've homegrown. They want to continue to leverage those platforms, but at the same time, they want to overcome some of the deficiencies. And that's really what I spent the first part of my career working as a developer in the commodities industry understanding. So ClearOpx was conceived initially to solve a very practical purpose. This commodities company that I was working for started delivering oil up in the Bakken back in 2008, 2012, when fracking really started taking off. They were experiencing a massive amount of data and truck tickets coming in. The truck tickets were literally being delivered in shoe boxes, and it was just becoming really, really unwieldy to go through these manually. So we first conceived ClearOpx as just a pure digitization tool. So I had researched what are the current technologies in the market. We found a lot, some OCR technologies that would help us to solve the problem. And then we started building out ClearOpx. So what ClearOpx achieved just in the first 6 months was just straight digitization and just seeing the benefits of pure automation, being able to track the accuracy, and the users really appreciated not having to go home at 9 o'clock at night because they were manually keying in these truck tickets. They were now sort of shifting gears, and instead of manually processing these, they were really just looking at the results from the digitization that we introduced. The next logical step was really to start bringing in a reconciliation. So, the digitization we found to be working well. Well, how do we know that the information was being inputted correctly on the tickets in the first place by these trucking companies? So introducing a reconciliation was the next sort of key feature that we started putting into this tool. And we found that, hey, there's a lot of discrepancies, even though the data on the ticket was accurate from an OCR perspective, it really wasn't matching what was being reported from the facility where the deliveries were being discharged. Once we started putting all the pieces together, we could really start gaining insight into that business. So after the success of this tool at the time on the Bakken oil truck deliveries, we really started looking at commercializing the technology. And in 2018, that's when we took the leap forward and really conceived and put ClearOpx into a commercial product that is now being utilized in almost every aspect of the organization, these commodities organizations. And as you know, Vlad, Githika, and April have varying use cases, you can see the need for this type of technology across the board. So ClearOpx is really here to help guide companies along their digitization journey. Every company has different requirements, has a different workflow. Really, ClearOpx was conceived to really help enter into that automation journey and really start leveraging the latest and greatest technologies. So first and foremost, you know, ClearOpx, it solves the digitization problem. It's utilizing artificial intelligence. I'm going to get into more details on exactly how that's done, how that's evolved over the years. There's a lot of new advancements in that field. My opinion, the best is even yet to come. You know, reconciliation is another key area. How do you know the data that you're digitizing is valid? You know, we're seeing vast amounts of data. You can't manually go in and validate all of the data points that are coming through. You really need to develop ways to monitor and validate the data, and reconciliation is really a good tool to do that with. You know, other panelists have attested to the additional data that we can capture through the digitization process. How can you gain insight off of that? There's a lot of data that's sort of being left on the table when you're doing your manual keying into your systems. A lot of systems aren't equipped to store all the ancillary information on a truck ticket, for example, or an invoice. Having access to that data from its raw source and having it readily accessible is really key to some of the insights and advantages of having a digitization platform. So what are some of the lessons learned? And I'm going to go into more details on this in some of the next slides. You know, utilizing multiple technologies. This is a constantly evolving field. Just in the last 3 years, we've seen great advancements in how data is digitized. The artificial intelligence that's applied to do that has advanced as well. And not, you know, I wouldn't commit to just one technology. Really use the appropriate tool or technology for the problem that you're looking to solve. One of the other key lessons learned is always be able to trace your results back to the source. You know, this really helps in validating how well your solution's working. If you're seeing a number that doesn't look right, being able to know where it came from, the company it came from, being able to respond back to them and question that is really key. There's so much data, it has to be accurate. We're dealing with financial data in regards to settlements, in regards to oil confirmations, truck deliveries. Everything really needs to be accurate as far as the data. And then, you know, we've already spoken about this, just being able to integrate into existing workflows. Every company has a different way of transacting, running their organizations. Introducing digitizations without majorly disrupting your current processes is really key. Okay, I'm gonna sort of segue into digitization evolution, and I'm gonna just walk through a few examples and just go over at a high level some of the technologies and how they've evolved over the years. And like I said, just in the last year, 2 years, we've seen major advancements in how digitization is being done. So to start off with, you know, your traditional OCR, which is highly template driven, that has been around for a number of years. You know, ClearOpx leveraged that for over 10 years, still does today. That is sort of yesterday's way of digitizing documents. Artificial intelligence, machine learning was introduced. that really allowed to recognize form-based documents. NLP is a newer technology, and the latest technology are these large language models. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go through some examples, and as you can see, these can be applied to different types of documents, and you really want to choose the correct technology for the document, or, I should say the format that you're trying to extract data from. So Paul, if you could go to the next slide. So OCR has been around for decades. So OCR is really just taking data from an image, from a PDF, and really converting it into its, numeric or alphanumeric values. OCR traditionally has relied upon position of text on the document. A lot of products allow you to draw a box around the relevant information, label it accordingly, and it worked reasonably well. So if you had, a small amount of data that came in a standard format, this technology, worked and still works today. It's just, it was onerous to set up. You really had to have a template for every document. And if a vendor changed their format, it would break. So the maintenance on this type of process was high. Handling tables in this really was cumbersome. So you really had to do a lot of scripting around that. So this technology has been around for years, and it really just wasn't allowing us to scale on the development side. It was still a lot of maintenance for us as developers. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Paul. And then we started introducing advancements in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And what this really brought us was we now had AI that could automatically recognize form fields and tables on a document. Once we started working with this technology, as developers, solution providers, this was really a game changer. Formats weren't as stringent. So if a company changed the layout of the data on their document, this technology could handle it rather nicely. It really did a good job of handling these form-based documents such as invoices, bills of lading, your tax forms. So this technology is still widely used today. It still does a great job. And this really made the implementation on these solutions a lot easier. If you could fast forward one slide, Paul. None of the technologies I've shown you worked well on these types of documents. So this is what Githica was referring to as these long form oil contracts. These documents are very verbose. We don't see a nice form on here. I don't see all the information nicely labeled to extract the data. So we actually had to incorporate a new type of technology called natural language processing. And in this, we're really doing entity extraction. So what did that really involve? It really required some substantial upfront training. So we actually had to take, hundreds of documents, train what we call our NLP models. We had to annotate them. Once we had enough training incorporated into the model, we can then deploy it and start running new documents against those models and start extracting data. So this handled these very verbose pieces of text. And as you can see, it really allowed us to break down and really adopt automation into these new types of technologies. The downside to this is we're really continuing to monitor this very closely. We're continuously training as new stuff comes in before that the model hasn't seen. It really continually requires incremental training to the model. So it's definitely an improvement over the other form-based technologies. But still, there's a maintenance involved in this. So if you could fast forward to the last slide, Paul. This is really what we're seeing as the latest technology. We're currently incorporating this into ClearOpx. It's not available today, but from what we're seeing, this is going to be the future of data extraction And really, it's exciting to be a part of this and to see how we can leverage these large language models and incorporate that into the digitization process. So what is a large language model? Well, large language models are pre-trained. They're really trained on billions of pieces of text. So these models have already seen the language around contracts, around invoices, around bills of lading or delivery documents. So that's the great news. So doesn't really require a lot of upfront training. What becomes complex is extracting the information from these large language models. And there's a whole new science called prompt engineering that really allows you to ask these models very, very targeted, specific questions in order to extract the information. As you can see, I put a sample session of what I was doing with one of these large language models, and I just asked it to parse an invoice or digitize an invoice and give it the output in a structured format. And once I handed off the command, I gave the text of the invoice. It actually went back, started thinking, and it actually produced some very, very promising results. So as you can see on the bottom, it identified a lot of the key pieces of information on the invoice and put it into a structured format. So from a developer's perspective, this is a very, very exciting method of data extraction. We're looking to apply this to not only our standard types of documents such as invoices, but we're also targeting this to do a deeper analysis on complex documents such as letters of credits or other types of verbose documents. So this is something that's relatively new, but we're seeing this as the latest methodology of digitization, and this is something that we're gonna incorporate into ClearDocs in the months ahead. So just wanted to leave it there and sort of give some insight into some of the technology around ClearDocs and what we do behind the scenes.
Excellent. Many thanks, Mark. Many thanks all speakers for your fascinating insights there. I'll now hand over to Rick, who will be moderating the panel discussion and audience Q&A for the remaining 30 minutes of this webinar. Rick, over to you.
Great, thanks, Ben. So everyone, we have a lot to put into the Q&A, so I'll ask a few questions up front to the panel, and then we'll quickly go to the Q&A. I'll let others populate. If you have any other questions, now would be the time. I guess the first one is, everyone's talked about what they've done here. And this for the panel, anyone would like to respond is, how to best identify where to start on your digitalization journey. How did you go about your first project? How did you narrow in on the right area? And more importantly, how did you get the organization behind you? It's just another project. What's the value of this? How did you get the support in going forward with this?
You want us to just jump in here, Rick?
Otherwise,
are you calling us out, or shall we?
All right. I'll take this one. I think, I think it's not necessarily an easy question to think about how to start a digitalization journey. I think many of us are probably already on that in some way, shape, or form. But I think the one thing that stands out to me is that that's sort of an evolving journey, right? So I think technology is evolving, our problems are changing. So if we even think of life, 3 years ago, it looked a lot different. The problems that we have today aren't the same as they were. And so I think mindful that that's sort of an evolution. And I think that's also important, right? Is the speed of implementing solutions that you can sort of stay apprised of sort of what are the current challenges of the business and not sort of being continuously behind the 8 ball. And so I think one thing that sort of, as I was thinking through your question, Rick, I think starting from the top and really understanding sort of what are the strategic goals of the business that you have, right? So who are your customers? What is the current challenges that the business has? So understanding what are those pain points. And I think a lot of times, sort of what is the vision for the future? What is the strategy of the business? Those sort of should be, I think, the pillars in sort of starting on a digitalization journey and really understanding sort of what are the goals that we're trying to accomplish. And if you don't know what those goals are, I think a good place to start is really diving in, talking to the folks in the team, understanding what are the pain points. So if you're specifically looking operationally, what are the pain points in terms of processing and managing the business? I think if you're looking commercially, right? So what are the challenges and how we interact with our customers, how we interact with our clients? What would improve the client experience or the customer experience? And so I think those are some places to start. I think for this isn't our first project, and I also think I wanted to highlight that there needs to be it's probably a lesson learned that I didn't really share, but an appetite to explore, right? Because there are a lot of solutions out there, and it takes a lot of time to sit through system demos and sort of see what's available. But I think having that appetite to explore is super important, and also having the resilience to go down a dead end and sort of cut your losses and start over, I think is really important. And before we actually found the solution that we did with ClearOpx, we had gone down a couple of other dead ends. I think we started with machine learning, robotic processing. Our clients have completely different sets of PDF data, right? So trying to do that, we'd never get to the finish line. I think with we worked with another vendor that was really trying to solve a solution, the same sort of problem in the marketplace, but they're hung up and trying to connect on all of these different ERPs, right? And so we did actually go down some dead ends before we really found a solution. And then I think when we found the right one, we were able to quickly implement. But I think in terms of getting right, like, especially if you're gonna choose a vendor that's not the lowest cost, right? You have to prove, sometimes you have to sell that not just to the team and the staff that's going to use it, but to those internally that may need to sign off on the implementation. And so I think spending the time sort of figuring out how does this improve the business, painting a vision of the future, take the time to build an ROI, right? How is this going to improve the business? Not everybody is a numbers person, but numbers do talk and people listen. And I think also just the simple fact of sort of going through that exercise shows diligence in those in leadership positions making those decisions. And so I think those are some suggestions, and certainly how we sort of went down the path of focusing on this project and prioritizing it within our business.
Fabulous, fabulous. Anyone else want to add, or should I move to another question?
Yeah, maybe just to add, so the ROI I think is a really important point, right? And it is sometimes quite difficult to actually come up with a number without making sort of these wild assumptions, right? So that's a challenging thing to do, but it's worth trying. I think one of the other things that was kind of challenging for us is not so much figuring out what was the project we needed to do, but more like figuring out. So there were a lot of requests because of the nature of our business. I think we're very diverse. We're very globally spread out. We trade sort of a wide range of products and with different approaches. The challenge was actually finding the greatest common value, if that makes sense, right? So we had a lot of good project ideas from different stakeholder groups, but it was trying to figure out, what do we have capacity to actually deliver so that we don't run in many directions at the same time, or not more directions than we're able to run, right? So you kind of have to walk and chew gum, I think, and do more than one project at a time if you have the capacity to do that, but you can't do a million of them. So I think part of that was really thinking about, if we do this thing that a person over here, I don't know, in Europe is suggesting, will it also benefit the US? Will it benefit Asia? Will it benefit South Africa? And will it benefit a range of businesses? And thinking about the greater good and trying to prioritize those projects where you kind of get the biggest bang for the buck in terms of, the breadth of businesses and end users that are positively affected by it.
Great. I'll since you just finished that, I'll throw this one at you also, because you're the only one on the IT side. I guess April can certainly comment, but how did you assess whether to build internally or buy externally? And when going externally, what was your selection process for vendors?
Is that for somebody specific?
Yes, I said for you, you can start out.
Oh, that was for me. Okay, got you. Okay, so I'll start. So for us, it's always like buy it if you can, otherwise build it, right? So that's generally the going in approach. And don't build things that you can buy is the sort of the corollary to that. So so we ended up with kind of this hybrid solution that I described before. So we have an off-the-shelf, vendor-based CTR. We have an off-the-shelf accounting system. We have an off-the-shelf document management system. And our focus on building internally was integration, sort of building add-on value-added things around those core tools, which the core tool itself maybe didn't do as well or didn't do specifically for our business. So we were, as tempting as it was for our developers to start exploring AI and going on the journey that Mark's gone through, we thought, well, maybe somebody has done this already and is farther along than we are. And so the choice there was to really buy that piece. But then where we made the choice to build was we said, okay, but we want to really, really tightly integrate that and make that very interactive with what's in our CTRM, which is specific to us, and what's in our document management system, which is specific to us. So that's why we chose to build an internal application that kind of connects basically the information coming from ClearDocs with the information in the CTRM and the information in the doc management system, and presents it all together in one place to the user, sort of to give them quick and easy access to make decisions with that.
Great.
Yeah, if I could just add to some of those thoughts, Rick, just from my perspective. I mean, I've worked as a developer for a number of years and evaluated multiple projects and products that are in the market. And constantly doing that all the time for ClearDocs. As a developer, we're always excited to go in and use new technology. We've seen a lot of interest in, hey, we appreciate what ClearDocs has done, but we wanted to try and leverage some of the latest technologies that are out there ourselves. What I think some companies fail to understand is it's not just the core technology, but all of the building blocks around it. What's the user experience? How do we pre-process data to flow into some of these large language models, for example? So I think, a lot of companies are excited on the new technology, and they should always explore and get their feet wet and understand what these technologies bring to the table. But to actually harness those technologies into a usable product that is going to incorporate into your current workflow actually takes quite a bit of effort. So I think just understanding the scope of the technologies that are out there and how to incorporate that, it's really should factor into whether you want to build it or look for a partner to help integrate something that's already been built.
Okay, great. I'll ask one more question and then make sure I have time to go through, and we will answer all the questions. If we don't get to them live, we'll certainly answer them. I'll give this one to Gitika. We've talked a lot about AI and tech. Let's bring a human element to this. What has been the human impact of automating many of these highly manual tasks, and what has your been approach to reskilling, because this again does affect people?
So yeah, a few human impacts actually, where, like I mentioned during my presentation, was the biggest piece was developing trust. And I have contract analysts who have done this. They're very senior in this space, who have done contracts as well as been in the physical oil space for a very long time. One was gaining their trust to trust the system, to do what they've been doing for a very long time. Secondly, you know, we had quite a bit of, like I said, decreased job satisfaction and heavy workloads during COVID. People were home, people were burned out, and I was brought in to Freepoint to recognize where can we automate a lot of this. And when we went through, we recognized that we were doing these very, very manual tasks on a daily basis. And frankly, I would like to utilize my team and their experience to go through and read some of the heavy non-economic clauses rather than taking and tying the same fields on each deal. I would rather have them concentrate on general terms and conditions and go through the long form contracts rather than just putting their focus on the economic data and getting the economic data right. I would also like them to have more conversations between different teams in the company to make sure what we put on our contract, one, is legally viable and does not, you know, result in any legal or financial impact to the company. But we were spending just so much time ticking and tying. So less burnouts, less heavy workloads. We could get away from spending so much time on vanilla deals and spend more time on structured deals. Scalability, we were a very heavy US trading firm, and we were developing to expand in the in the EU as well as Asia. So we needed and resources. You know, resources are always a constraint in every company where not everybody can hire more people. So in that sense, it's been very positive human impact.
Great. Okay. We have a little under 15 minutes left, so I'm going to jump a lot of questions on ClearOpx, which is fantastic, but I want to make sure that we will respond to those. But you know, we have the panel, so I'll try to pull out ones that are, you know, directed more to the panel as well. So there's a metal, so maybe it's flat. A lot of the challenges I see on the settlements of the physical metals come down to the pricing complexities. For example, concentrates metals, iron ore. Customers/counterparties in the banks often need or want to understand their provisional and final settlement pricing linked to actualized quantities, qualities, multiple underlying indexes, FX rates, freight costs, etc. Can these digital solutions help to create the settlements pricing related transparency for the counterparty?
Yeah, so yes, I recognize exactly what you're talking about. And it is definitely challenging, particularly in the metals concentrates area. I guess there are a couple of different components to this, so I'm not sure if the question was specifically aimed at any one of them, but I guess there's a component, obviously, in terms of valuation and pricing inside your system, and, you know, so hopefully whatever CTRM you have can handle that complexity and can value things correctly, taking all that into account, taking assay values, treatment charges, refining charges, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You know, fortunately, ours does, and so we rely on that. There's another component to it, which is in kind of how you present and deliver that information to external parties. So whether it's in your invoice documents, and whether those are going, you know, as a provisional invoice, as a final invoice, those details need to be there. And further, if you're working with banks, the banks need to see enough of that detail as well to be comfortable if some of the financing is LC based or bank based. So we actually developed something in-house to specifically address the document generation aspect on the invoices, but we're basically taking data from our CTRM system and generating that in sort of a human readable sort of standard invoice format, with some ability for the users to modify and adjust some formatting or add some additional context, but not to modify the specific terms that come out of our CTRM. So those are kind of locked down and can only be changed in the CTRM. So so that's kind of on the way out. On the way in, we're not yet using ClearDocs to process incoming materials invoices, which is where this would apply. We're using it for service invoices. So indeed, yes, this will be interesting when and if we try that out on materials invoices with ClearDocs. I'm sure it'll be a good challenge for us and for Mark and his team.
Great. Mark, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions just pertaining to, because I see some groupings here. What ETRMs do you integrate? Do you integrate with Allegro? Is ClearOpx compatible with Microsoft Business Central? So maybe you could just talk about quickly on our experience with ETRMs and the quick answer on the APIs and exactly how that process works.
Sure. So ClearDocs has really taken the stance where we're going to integrate with any downstream system, and our approach is we're going to format the data accordingly. So we already integrate with several ETRM systems. We do with Microsoft SharePoint. We take the data points that are required for your downstream system, and we have the ability in ClearDocs to take the data from the original source, whether it's a document, PDF file, the data that's coming in, normalize it into a structured way, and we can enrich it. So what that means is, let's say your downstream system has product numbers instead of a product name. We have the ability in ClearDocs to map a product name into the exact product number of your downstream system. And then we can deliver the data in a variety of ways to be ingested into that downstream system. So that's really the ClearDocs approach. We'll work with any system. We have APIs that can pull the data out of ClearDocs and be pushed into the downstream system. We can deliver it to an FTP site, to a message bus. And to date, we're integrating with about 5 different ETRM systems and multiple accounting systems, and also Microsoft SharePoint, which is just really a file store.
Great. As a quick follow-on to that, is ClearDocs cloud-based or can it be localized? If cloud, how did entities get comfortable with the security concerns of having trading data in the cloud?
Yep. So we have multiple options for the ClearDocs deployment. Our primary platform is a multi-tenant cloud-based SaaS platform. So it's running in the cloud. We have multiple customers on the same instance. To get the customers comfortable, we have just recently undergone our SOC 2 Type 1 compliance. So we are now SOC 2 compliant. All of the data that is being captured from each customer goes into a separate storage bucket for all of the original documents or emails coming in. And then all of the data that we're extracting from those documents are going into an encrypted relational database. If that is not enough to satisfy the security requirements, we also have the option of running a private instance of ClearDocs. So that would involve setting up a separate hosted instance. We do support that, and that is obviously done at an extra cost.
Okay, great. So one back to the panel. I think interesting question here. If you're building a new physical commodity trading business, would you recommend doing this at the same time as building the ERP and operation systems, or would you do best to do it after the systems are in place? That's a toss-up. Anyone want to take that one?
I can take it. If you're thinking of integration with your ETRM system, I would do it at the same time, because you could think about the workflows, you could think about the different integration techniques that you would need. I think it would be better if you do it at the same time.
Okay. I think this one may come back to you, Mark. There is a serious security risk letting staff feed data, for example, invoices or contracts into public LLMs such as ChatGPT. It is directed to you, Mark. How did you start to identify internal/private LLM vendors, and are all LLM equal when trained on the same data?
Okay, so this is a new initiative that we're still in progress. So we're evaluating a number of LLM vendors that are in the market. Obviously, OpenAI is open, so that's really not geared towards securing your data. There's several other vendors that we're still researching to overcome the security concerns around OpenAI. My guess is OpenAI will address this. This is a requirement for a lot of companies. They don't want their data feeding into these public models. Right now, it's a craze of activity around just LLMs in general. But my suspicion is in the next 6 months to a year, we're going to start seeing a lot of private LLMs that are really geared towards companies. Security concerns.
Okay, great. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. We have about 4 minutes, but I have one quick follow-up before we close, so we may run a little bit over. The question, again, back to you, Mark, since we're speaking of LLMs, any estimation on when LLM will be available in ClearOpx?
We have a project going on right now where we just started utilizing it. The elephant in the room, which we've already talked about, is the security around LLM. So right now, I would estimate by the end of this year, I would say we're going to have something rolled out LLM based. There's a lot of capability around LLM. So we're going to start off streamlining just current existing digitizations and expand from there. Finding the right vendor provider of the LLMs is going to be key, because that is something that is again, security is of utmost concern.
Okay, great. We do have other questions. Again, we will respond to them, so you will receive these responses. Apologize for running, close to the end of time here. Ben, I'll turn it back to you. I think you want to say a few words.
Yeah. Just really would like to say a huge thank you, Rick, and a huge thanks to our panel for their insights today, and yes, to the audience for joining. The webinar recording will be sent via email within the next 2 days. So if you have found it of interest, do share with colleagues or with your wider network. If Rick, Mark, myself, or any of the panel can be of any assistance at all, do drop us a line or connect with us via LinkedIn. And yeah, from my side, just again, many thanks, audience, panel. You've been absolutely fantastic, and wishing everyone really an excellent day or evening ahead.
Great. And the final slide here, I'll just make mention is, while we have all of you here together, we will again respond to your questions, but we have material on the website. You can download a white paper specifically about the digitization and unlocking this document data. As a follow-up to this, we've scheduled 3 different workshops for next week. You can register for them on the website. They are specifically around confirms, which I know there's some questions here on that, invoices and inspections. So 3 specific times there. And then even if you can't make those sessions, one of the questions was, can we see a demo of ClearOpx? Absolutely, just reach out to us and we'll set something up. But then at any time, any additional questions, contact us directly, or always at info@clearopx.com, and we'll be able to respond to you very quickly. I'll do the same. I'll thank the panelists. Fantastic. Appreciate your time and efforts. I will thank Ben and Commodities people for helping to assemble this. And I will thank all the attendees. Much appreciate your time and interest in not only these topics and the application of this technology, but in interest in ClearOpx as well. So thank you very much, and again, have a wonderful rest of your days.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.